That's not Hotline Miami. That's Redgar the Space Viking. Redgar is Hotline Miami's goofy sci-fi Viking bastard child. I played through the first several levels. This is essentially a first impressions video, not a full review. Also, since this game was obviously inspired by Hotline Miami, I expect a lot of comparisons there. To put it simply, Redgar is a less arcadey, rough around the edges clone of Hotline Miami. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you're gonna clone a game, Hotline Miami is a pretty good choice. Even then, there are a few cool things added to the mix to help it stand out. Anyway, despite its issues, the game is pretty fun. There are two modes in the game. The main mode is a story mode where you follow Redgar's story. The other mode is Arena, where the focus is on the combat. Levels in the arena are procedurally generated as far as I can tell. These levels aren't as interesting, but they provide some sandboxy fun. In the story mode, you play as Redgar, the Space Viking. Both the character and story are pretty simple. Redgar just wants to be the best Viking and rescue his family. A lot of the story is told almost like an RPG. You walk around levels and talk to different NPCs. Sometimes this can even happen in combat levels. Personally, I prefer more directed storytelling, but that's just a nitpick more than anything. The writing and dialogue is very campy. It's also funny at times too. If you couldn't tell, Redgar the Space Viking isn't supposed to be taken super seriously. Again, the story is simple and is just meant to get the player from point A to point B. The graphics are pretty similar to Hotline Miami. I wouldn't fault someone if they thought this is a Hotline Miami mod or something. Of course, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's a fun style. Most of the graphics and animations are pretty good. I really like some of the level props and decorations. Most of the animations are pretty smooth too. I do think some of them feel a bit stiff though. Also, I feel like the gore could be amped up a bit with more dynamic blood and death animations. The character portraits aren't animated at all, but the portraits actually look like higher fidelity versions of Hotline Miami portraits. Personally, I think the portraits end up looking worse in terms of style. The gross look of the Hotline Miami portraits seems like a style choice, while Redgar portraits just look bad. Outside of the portraits, I like pretty much all of the other graphics. I do like the variety that the sci-fi and Viking themes bring. A few of the weapons kind of look like goofy set props, but that's just a part of the charm. So how does the game actually play? As you can see, the combat is fast-paced with instant death for both players and enemies alike. Isn't it annoying to have to restart the level whenever you die? Well, not necessarily. The game has very fast respawns, and the levels generally don't drag on too long. That keeps you fresh in the action for the most part. However, I do think some levels could be shorter. It can be pretty frustrating clearing a decently large level and having to restart whenever the last enemy kills you. Also, this is a nitpick, but I wish the respawn was nearly instantaneous rather than having a half-second long fade out. One of the big differences between Redgar and Hotline Miami is the addition of devices. The player can pick up one device at a time, which gives them a special ability. At the start, you get a punch device, which just lets you throw a punch. But abilities get more interesting from there. The shield device reflects projectiles, which can look pretty funny. The rocket boots boost you forward pretty quickly. It's kind of a meme device, really. The invisibility device makes the player invisible, but remember, enemies can still hear you. The teleport device is my favorite by far. This device lets you blink a short distance away. You can use this to go through walls and surprise enemies. The horn lets you basically taunt enemies. It alerts them and makes them come to your position. The replenish ammo device does just that. It replenishes your ammo. This is my least favorite. It just feels like an ammo pickup that you use and then drop immediately. Also, it kind of goes against the idea of churning through weapons. Having to switch weapons frequently makes the combat feel frenetic and dynamic. Having to stop to replenish ammo just slows down the action. The aimbot device displays a laser sight that aims for you. I bet there are some crazy combos here. There may be other devices, but since this is a more first impressions video, I haven't seen them. These devices are pretty interesting, and it's fun being able to swap through them on the fly. I'm actually torn if it's better than if you just choose one device per level or set of levels. In my experience, more restrictions can often lead to more creative and replayable gameplay. Unlike Hotline Miami, enemies will die if they get hit while knocked down. Some people may miss the extra gory executions, myself included, but this way does feel more streamlined. The only feature I can really say I miss from Hotline Miami is the scoring system and combo multipliers. Even if you don't care that much about score, it's just so satisfying, zooming through the level to keep up the combo. I definitely think there should be some sort of gameplay incentive for players to go out of their way to do crazy moves. The music is pretty good, but it's not anything to write home about. The only issue I have is that some of the tracks don't seem to loop well. If you're into achievements, there are a couple of interesting ones, but most of them are just completing levels. I did run into a weird bug, where I got the achievement for finishing a level when I killed the last enemy and died at the same time. It's just a small thing, but it's just another little bug that makes the game feel like an early access title. In general, the game runs pretty well. It's just a 2D pixel art game, so it's not very demanding, though there was a large amount of lag during one of my runs. It only lasted one life, but it's something to note. The developer has been hard at work updating the game with various improvements like gameplay tweaks, more achievements, and bug fixes. Hopefully with a few more updates, the early access feeling will go away. In conclusion, Redgar the Space Viking is pretty fun. I wish the game had more arcadey features to reward fast gameplay, but it's still a fun romp. I hope the developer will continue polishing up the rough edges of the game with more updates. I definitely recommend the game if you can find a decent deal on it, or if you really like Hotline Miami's combat. I'll leave some links in the description if you want to pick it up. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this, or if there's any games you think I should take a look at.